This is Anchor Your Retirement with Barb Gulin from Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Barb Gulin provides her clients and prospects the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful strategies to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now here is Anchor Your Retirement with Barb Gulin.
Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barb Gulin, and I'm freezing, but hanging out with Tony Shore today. Hi, Tony.
Yeah, the temperature dropped, I'm going to guess 50, 60 degrees in the last day. It feels that way anyway, doesn't it?
We dropped like 20 degrees in 2 hours this morning.
Yeah, we did as well.
Yeah, I use the phrase fall fell.
Yep, fall fell. I like that.
Yeah.
Fall fell.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's the wordsmith in me. Got to find a pun somewhere or a play on words. So what are your plans for the weekend, Tony?
Well, I'm more excited to hear your plans for this weekend. Trust me. Well, the plan usually here is in our area, we usually get together. We live on a cul-de-sac, so the neighbors all get together in one person's driveway. We usually have a fire pit that we roll out there and those big overhead heaters, and we set up tables with candy for the kids on Halloween.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and then all the neighbors get together, and then Halloween kids from the neighborhood come through, and we hand it out and all hang out together, and usually we order in pizza or somebody makes food. So that's a lot of fun. But
like
this year... Yeah, but this year it's going to be in the 30s and cold and possibly snowing. So I don't think we're going to do the driveway thing. May get canceled. It just might not be. It might be a
garage thing.
Yeah, it might be, but nobody's garage. My garage is so full of crap and junk, and so is my neighbor's. So I don't know. We'll see if we have enough room in the garage for everyone, but or one of our neighbors does maybe. So, but yeah, I mean that's a fun thing. But I have to tell you the craziest story ever about Halloween.
Okay,
a fellow financial advisor that you may or may not know him and have met him, but his name is Rob Curvin. He's a nice guy from Chicago. Yes. He's a big investments guy, but and I know you've been at some of the big financial conventions for top advisors with him.
I have, and I'm from Chicago. So.
Yes, and he's very funny. He's originally from Canada, so obviously he's a nice guy and funny. They all are, right? Yeah. Canadians,
polite and funny,
right? Polite. Although what he's doing this year is not so polite to the parents in his neighborhood, because he said he usually gets in his neighborhood about 150 trick-or-treaters every year.
Okay.
So, and he lives in a good neighborhood, so they come to his house and they usually have something really good for the kids. Him and his wife try to do something special each year. This year, the first
is this like a full-size candy bar neighborhood? Is that?
Oh yeah, even more. They put up lines across their yard, and the kids and little clothespins with bags with treats and like a toy and candy inside, and you just come up. Each trick-or-treater gets to pull a bag off the line, right? They've done that. This year, I don't know, they're giving away a candy bar or something, but then they have 50 that they're giving away live goldfish. I kid you not, live goldfish.
You have rendered me speechless.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I said, come on, you're not giving away. He goes, we have 50 live goldfish in baggies we're going to hand out to kids. And he kind of chuckles and he goes, can you imagine the parents in the neighborhood, how upset they're going to be?
What I can't imagine.
Like, they are not going to be happy with you.
Okay, and my thought is these kids just swinging these bags everywhere and beating the crap out of them. First of all, I
told him not a good idea. Yeah.
And what happens if the bag breaks?
Yeah, it's a bad idea all the way around. And I said, you cannot be serious. I've never heard of such a thing. And he said, no, we're doing it. And I said, I don't know if that's a good idea. And I said, there's one rule in radio. I've worked in radio in one form or another for about 36 years. And you never give away anything living. ever. That's not, when you do a promotion and a giveaway, you never give away live animals, you never give away plants, you never give away food. Anything that can go bad or die, you do not give away. It's just a rule.
True.
So I worked at a radio station in the country, in the farming community of Worthington, Minnesota. About 2 miles outside of town was the station in the tower, and they gave away one year a bull, a live bull. And they kept it in a pen at the station during the promotion. It was a big promotion, and bulls are worth thousands of dollars, right?
I know.
It's not cheap, and it was a nice bull. So it was a big deal. Everybody was excited about it. Everybody knew about it. But I'm like, isn't it rule number 1 for radio? And they said, oh, yeah, it'll be fine. They gave it away. Some guy won it. A farmer won it.
Okay.
The day before he was supposed to come pick it up, it got loose, got away. So they're liable for the cost to that person that won it, right? The value of the bull or a bull. So they were either like, we have to buy another bull or give them the money. Luckily, they asked him if he would wait, and he did, but he wasn't too happy because he showed up with his trailer and everything, and then the bull wasn't there. But another farmer found it about a week later. 5 days later, they found it and gave it to the guy. But that is a story that you can't, and they had the staff feeding it. Like, I'm not going to go out and feed a bull as part of my radio shift as a radio announcer.
No,
So,
and the only thing running through my mind is the episode of WKRP in Cincinnati
The
where they
turkey
gave away the
episode.
turkeys.
the Thanksgiving episode where they dropped live turkeys from an airplane. As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. Yeah, not the big fat turkeys that are raised for Thanksgiving. They don't fly.
Kidding. No kidding.
Not wild turkeys. And they won't fly if you drop them from a plane. That's not how it works. It's like dropping a chicken from a plane. That wasn't good, or from a helicopter in that case. But anyway, I digress. What are we talking? What about you? What are you doing this weekend?
I am going up to Omaha to see my brother-in-law's maze. Now, every year, maze, yeah. They live in a nice neighborhood. And my brother-in-law, his favorite holiday is Halloween. Okay. So God love him. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, the French provincial dining room set that was her pride and joy right now is being seated by 6 skeletons in the house. Happens every year. I might have to send you a picture to upload.
I have to see pictures. I want to see pictures of the maze or video of the maze, and I want to see pictures of this dining set.
Yeah. 3-car garage, okay? 2 cars deep in the driveway, into a cul-de-sac. He makes a maze every year for the trick-or-treaters to get to the front door. And they have like 400 trick-or-treaters that come through. I mean, in the past, the fire department brings a truck out and they hand candy out to the kids that are in line to go through it.
Wow.
And my brother-in-law's got a drone that flies over it, and the 14-foot tall skeleton things just because he can.
So they go all out for Halloween. It's an event.
He goes all out. He goes all out. And I have never been up to see the maze. And so this is my first trip to the maze. And I'm now slightly terrified because his Facebook post yesterday was, I need some styrofoam heads. The ones plural that I had ordered aren't going to be in time. And like, I am not a horror movie person.
Styrofoam heads.
That
can't be good.
I'm not a creepy person.
Right.
So, you know, fun fact, I dated my brother-in-law before my sister did. And the one movie he took me to was a horror movie. And I swear he still has scars in the back of his hand from my fingernails digging into his hand during the movie. So that's what I'm doing this weekend.
Wow. So that should be a fun trip.
I think it will be. I might regret driving back that same night because, but it's about a 3-hour drive, but it's a drive through a lot of farmland where,
Yeah.
usually I'm so excited to see the stars because there's not a whole lot of light. We'll see how I'm feeling about it. And maybe I ought to bring a toothbrush and a change of clothes in case I freak myself out and decide I have to stay.
Well, there is a beautiful neighborhood in our area now,
Mhm.
I think it's just north, a little northwest of downtown, and it is in Omaha. They've refurbished some really old buildings, built
Mhm.
it up. Amazing food and dining there. I actually like Omaha a lot.
I
They've
like
done a
Omaha
lot with
a
that
lot
town.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's very cosmopolitan for
Yeah.
being in the middle in a flyover state.
It is. I think it gets a bad rap because, Nebraska, people are always saying, nope, that's a lot of great music there. I mean, a lot of great music there.
Mhm.
Mannheim Steamroller is from Omaha.
I
If you've ever
know.
heard of them and their
Oh,
Christmas
yes. I love their
albums.
Christmas
Yeah.
albums. I have all of the
Yep.
CDs.
Yep. Chip
And
Davis is the guy from Mannheim Steamroller, and he's great. He gave my cousins live in Omaha, and they took piano lessons from him when they were young. He used to
oh
give
my
piano lessons.
gosh,
Of course, once his group Fresh Air and Mannheim Steamroller took off, no more piano
he
lessons,
wasn't
but
doing piano lessons anymore.
no.
Yeah, I actually he came and did a concert down here
Yep.
at an outdoor theater in
wow.
in the middle of summer. I was in college, and we were hoping it would have been like a whole Mannheim Steamroller concert, and
Right.
instead it was more Chip Davis conducts the Kansas City Symphony
Oh,
with
sure.
Mannheim Steamroller at the end.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, he's really into classical music too. But I'll tell you what, the concert to see, and he tours nationally with it, is the Mannheim Steamroller Christmas concert.
I've heard
Those
that.
are amazing. So I've
Yeah.
seen that a few times. So
That's a bucket list one for me to see.
sure. So what are we talking about on the show today? I know women in finances, right?
Yes, women in money, women in finances.
All right.
Just any way you want to cut it, whether or not you really want to think about it, women end up behind the eight ball with finances for a few different reasons. And unless they are intentional about doing something differently, they can really get caught in a bind later on in life. Typically, first of all, women outlive men. So the money we make needs to last longer. And while the wage gap is closing, second quarter last year, women made 85.5% of what their male counterparts make. And while that may sound not great, it's the closest we've come in wage equality since we've been tracking it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know things are changing for the better. It's just, it seems like at a snail's pace. I mean, this day and age, there shouldn't even be an issue. I mean, my wife makes a lot more than I do, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. She just has a managerial role where she manages a lot of people, and I only have to worry about Mitch.
There you go. But the question becomes...
No one manages Mitch, though, let me tell you.
Is he like trying to trap lightning in a jar?
Yes. I'm glad I'm not responsible we run the department together, and I'm not responsible for managing him. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. He does great work. I'll tell you that.
Listen, he did a great job with this new design for the podcast, the video.
Yeah, look at that.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But the question becomes, with your wife, how much does a man in the same role that she has make compared to what she makes? That's where we see the wage gap.
Yes.
And, while I'm glad that that gap is closing, it's still, when we talk about Einstein's eighth wonder of the world, compound interest, even 1 year of a gap over time ends up becoming this exponential thing. That if you're
right.
watching on video, I'm doing things with my hands. I'm Italian. I talk with my hands. But to create that sense of, to create the wage equality really is something that for women is far more important than we give it credit or pay attention to, if that makes any sense.
But that makes sense, the compounding interest aspect. It's the same with your Social Security and cost of living adjustments. Let's say this year, it's 3.2% that people get. But if you locked in that lower amount, or if the wife in the relationship or the female in the relationship usually has a lower Social Security amount because maybe they worked less because they raised the family. And so they've locked in a lower amount. So 3.2% of that $1,000 a month they're getting versus the $2,500 a month that the male spouse is getting, that makes a big difference. In that compounding interest in investments in 401ks, your retirement funds are going to be exponentially over the years more if you're earning more, is what you're saying.
Well, or even if you're earning, because let's say a woman takes 5 to 10 years off in her 20s and 30s to have kids and get them off to school, and then re-enters the workforce when the youngest one goes back to school full time. Very typical scenario. You've got those, say, 5 to 10 years where she wasn't working. And if they weren't doing something like a spousal IRA, which is a thing that a lot of people forget exists, or they aren't doing anything to add to her retirement accounts in that time, you've got those earlier years that aren't compounding and aren't growing. Hopefully, if she was in the workforce before she stopped to have a family, she had a 401k or some sort of retirement plan, and hopefully she left it there, rolled it out into a self-directed IRA so that it could keep growing and didn't decide to impulsively take that money out, take the penalty, pay the taxes, and use it for something else. Hopefully they didn't have a financial need that justified that, or hopefully they didn't make an impulsive decision. I don't want to say a bad or a foolish decision, but an impulsive decision to cash that in.
Good point. Yeah, exactly. So the decisions are a lot more, they can have a lot bigger impact, especially for women, and they really need to watch out.
They can. And anybody listening to this who is in that situation where you're home with the kids, I want you to understand that even if you aren't working, if your spouse has earned income, you can still contribute to what's called a spousal IRA, and you can put away the same as your working partner can into an IRA or a Roth IRA to save for retirement. A lot of people don't take advantage of that when they can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another good point. And I'm glad you're pointing this out. Our listeners need to be aware of this. And this is why the challenge can be greater for women in retirement or in their savings plans, their financial plans. And that's where you come in. And of course, you offer great perspective because you help couples, men, women out with retirement planning and financial planning all the time. So you see this when you look at the big picture, you're really seeing all these different aspects that can affect it. And, you started with the big one, women outliving men. And you hear that a lot. I think most of our listeners have probably heard that. Okay, women typically outlive men. I've heard even 6 years in a lot of cases. They live past men. On average, about
sometimes
6 years
longer.
Yes. And my mother is in a nursing home and a care facility. And fortunately, it's a good one. And she's well taken care of. And I visit her there all the time. My father does. But in there, it's almost all widowed women. I mean, you can literally count on one hand the number of men in there versus women. I mean, the percentages are crazy. It's like maybe 10% men, the rest are women. And so women do end up on their own in retirement a lot, don't they?
They do. And, from the perspective of the woman who steps back from a career to start the family and get the family going, I've been there because I did the same thing. When my kids were little, I cobbled together, I was an advisor for a while, stepped back from that for a number of reasons. But after that, ended up cobbling together, freelance writing and doing other gig type stuff so that I could devote most of my time to being with my kids. And it impacted what I was able to save for retirement. So I've been there and I understand what it's like to feel that way. And relish the opportunity to help somebody find a solution and be in a better place and make different choices, know better, do better. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important. So obviously there are different strategies for women that you look at. And even if you're dealing with a couple, a man and a woman together, you're going to make sure that they don't make mistakes that are going to leave the surviving spouse in a bad situation. And typically that surviving spouse is the woman, but not always.
Yeah.
But sometimes whichever social security comes into that when it comes to financial planning for women is different than financial planning for men then, isn't it?
It really is. And even, with all the seminars out there that are trying to talk you into waiting to take your Social Security until your benefit is higher, here's the thing. When you've got a married couple and one passes away, the surviving spouse doesn't get both. They get the higher of one or the other. Right. And so if you are spending down something like a 401k or an IRA in the name of getting that higher Social Security benefit, I really take a long, hard look at that with my clients, because that IRA money can be used in other places for other things. Social Security, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And that's another good point. And Social Security does play into this. Healthcare benefits play into it. Mm-hmm. I know that so many aspects go into that. And that is why I think it's important that they be involved. Sometimes maybe it's just the man who handles the finances. Now that stereotype is changing too, but I bet you still see it in a lot of cases that it's just one or the other. And that's why it's important for the women to be involved in the family financial planning, isn't it?
Yeah, I am really adamant about getting both members of a couple involved in the planning process. And here's the interesting thing that I find, Tony. Women usually handle the day-to-day bill paying and the mortgage, the groceries, the utilities, that kind of thing. Yep. But when it comes to the investing side of things, they've bought into the myth that they can't understand it. And so they leave that to the men folk. And I got news for you. A whole bunch of the men folk don't understand it either.
That is true.
Or they think they understand it and they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that my wife and I tackle it together. We do all those things together. And my wife used to be my wife handled the bills and I was the one that got us on board with a financial planner and did that thing. But then I learned, from working with you and working in the industry doing these shows that, hey, we've got to all be on the same page here. And I love how somebody recently put it, and I love this. It's called socializing your goals. In other words, set financial goals, right, as part of planning, have a plan, but socialize that plan and goals. In other words, communicate it with others, communicate it with a financial advisor. So to make those financial goals a reality, communicate them with your children, with your parents, with your spouse.
Absolutely. And, if you go back, gosh, a ways now, the episode that we did on your financial spirit animal.
I love that one.
Remember, you and your wife are acting like eagles because you're doing it in lockstep together. Right. And, there's a lot of good things that come from that eagle type personality.
And I was so afraid my spirit animal would be a manatee. I was very afraid that you would say I'm a manatee.
Well, I remember we've got the 5. We've got the lion, the eagle, the ant, the turtle, and the butterfly. So if you want to find out what your financial spirit animal is, you have to go back and listen to that podcast. But another reason that women end up getting behind the 8 ball with some of this is we end up getting sandwiched into caring for older parents and caring for the school-age kids. Most of the time when an older parent needs care, it is a a woman in the family that ends up being that unpaid caregiver until mom or dad get to the point that you have to bring in somebody that is skilled and that needs to be paid. And, we're going to forsake the time at work. We might take ourselves out of the running for a promotion just because we know we have these extra things on our plate with caring for our parents, and I would do it gratefully if my mom needed that kind of care. I wouldn't think twice about it, but I'd also be foolish to think that it isn't going to have an impact on my financial future in some way.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's so important. Now, how can our listeners out there get a hold of you to make sure they have a plan in place?
To make sure that you've got a plan in place, I'm going to give you a complimentary consultation. It isn't going to cost you anything to walk through the door and have me take a look at everything and run an analysis. You can reach us at our website. There's one website listed on the video. The one I'm going to tell you if you're listening is easier. It's anchoryourretirement.com. And our telephone number is area code 913-553-6222. Just select the option for appointments and scheduling, and a member of our team is going to visit with you and get you on our calendar so we can talk to you about these things.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Well, this has been a great topic, Barb. I love it. And it's so important. And we're going to talk more about women and finances and the differences in future shows. I'm sure this topic will come up again, but a great show. Give that phone number and web address one more time.
Sure. You're going to go to anchoryourretirement.com, area code 913-553-6222. And next week when Tony and I visit, we'll find out about whether they got to have their driveway party and whether I survived the maze.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Well, appreciate it, Barb. And listeners, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barb Gulin.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to Anchor Your Retirement. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound retirement plan. For more information, please contact Barb Gulin at Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group. Call 913-553-6222 or visit them online at anchoryourretirement.com.
Advisory services are offered through Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Kansas. All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.